Hi my creative friends! Today I wanted to try to do something fun, colorful, playful, fairy tale-ish, maybe Pixar movie-ish. We're going to be using ResinCrete colored UV resin. It's part casting, part sculpture, a whole lot of imagination, and 100% whimsical. So grab your supplies and let's get to pouring. I have rounded up these fun, whimsical cottage and house molds. This one's standalone and it has a little heart at the top and 4 windows. And then I have this large mold with all different shapes and sizes of houses, but I think I'm just going to use a few of the little ones for this project. So go ahead and get out your favorite Eco-Resin. I love J. Dixon's ResinCrete. It doesn't smell, it's not messy, it's not sticky, and it cures in 30 minutes. You can also add color to this and pigments, but I'm going to leave these white. This is measured by weight, and so I've got a little food scale here that I use to measure out my grams of ResinCrete to the appropriate ratio of water. For this project, I'm using about 100 grams, well, close, 99.9 grams of ResinCrete to 30 grams or close of water. You want to try to mix this up thoroughly. I have a little baby silicone whisk that works perfectly, and I don't know where I put it. It's probably getting washed somewhere in a sink. So I've got the silicone spatula that I'm using. And once you mix that up really good, you want to try to get this mixed pretty quick, like in 8 minutes, because it'll start to set up. Now, this first mold, I'm going to purposely not fill it all the way up because I want my windows and heart to have a hollow back. I was thinking I might do something different than I ended up doing with this in the end. And don't forget to jiggle and wiggle it as best you can to release any air bubbles in there. And on these little ones, I'm going to go ahead and fully fill them up. And I want to give a shout out to my creative crew members. Thank you so much for contributing to the channel. Everything helps to keep these videos coming, and I really appreciate you. You can see that I have quite a few lumps and bumps still in my ResinCrete, but I'm not worried about it because this is such a forgiving product that you won't even notice in the end. While I wait for those to set up, I'm going to use some of this jewelry wire. I don't know what gauge this is exactly, but I will do my best to link all the supplies down below the video in the description, and there'll be some coupon codes for you there as well. I'm going to use this little dowel rod for bending my wire and some jewelry pliers and snippers and that sort of thing. Now, I've got to tell you, this is my first attempt at making this project, so you're going to be a beginner right along with me. I'm sure there are much better ways to work with wire, but I'm just kind of winging it and using what I have around me in the studio. So I would like to create some little hearts out of the wire. And my thought is I'm going to fill them with all different colors of UV resin. And we'll be adding these to our houses later on. So this is how I came up with my hearts. I just bent it around that dowel rod and then twisted the bottom to secure them and snipped off the extra wire. And because I don't know quite how long I want these to be yet, we're just going to keep them as is until we get to actually assembling them with our houses. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Now I've got a few hearts ready and made. Let's get out our UV resin. I have never used this set of colored UV resin before. This is by J. Dixon. It comes with 15 colors, And if you know me, you know I'm obsessed with UV resin, and the more colors I can get, the better. Of course, they include an instruction booklet, and it's also got your cure times and how to use it, your warning labels. And what a selection of colors. Of course, they supply you with the application tips. So I'm going to get these all ready to go, and we're going to start pouring some color. Don't forget to put on your safety gear, and I also use my Resiner's air purifier in the studio anytime I'm working with resin products, and it will detect the VOCs and help clean out that air. From past experience, I've figured out you never know exactly what the color is going to look like inside these bottles. So this go around, I'm going to put a little dot of each one out on some plastic and cure them so I can see what they're actually going to look like, so I know which ones to use in my project. And you'll notice some of them are more translucent, some are more opaque, some are kind of glowy and neon. We've got a lot of variety in this set of colors. And these are going to work perfect for what I have in mind for this project. Now our ResinCrete is ready to demold. It's been about 30 minutes. So let's pop these out of the molds. And everyone asks me, how sturdy is this product? So I just want you to hear how hardy and clunky and heavy duty these are. It's a really, really nice product. You don't want to pour it really thin because, yeah, it would break or chip. But when you are working like this and pouring it thick, it works great. And you're even going to see me drilling into these later on, and they don't crack. And here's our tiny little houses. They pop right out of the mold just like that. I'm going to set those aside and let them continue to dry out while we start working with that gorgeous UV colored resin. This is UV resin tape. Now, because I made my hearts homemade, they're not going to lay perfectly flat like the bezels that you buy in the store. So I'm going to place them on the tape and use my little dowel to just kind of roll them into the tape, hoping that they'll adhere better that way. I think I'll start with the red. This is more of an opaque color, and I'm going to combine that with some pink and also some clear UV resin. So I'm just going to put a really thin layer down and then do a really quick cure on them for like a minute, just to cure them enough that they're not leaking. This purple is really beautiful, but definitely more translucent. I think I'll combine this with some of that pink. This is where you can just let your imagination go wild. You can blend colors, you can keep colors, you can add glitter to colors, you can do all kinds of things with these. Again, I'm just going to cure those briefly so that we don't get too much leakage. I'm going to combine the two different blues. One's translucent, one's opaque. And here's that orange. I really like this color. Of course, I love oranges. Here's what those look like with just that first layer after they've cured. Now I'm going to take some clear UV resin and put a clear coat on top of these next. Gonna pop the bubbles with the lighter, put them back under the UV light for a minute. And while those are curing, I think I'll take my wire and create some balloon shapes to go with the hearts. Do you have a clue what I'm gonna do with this yet? Hang in there, we're getting there. And here are our hearts after they're fully cured. You'll see later that I do build up these more because I decide I like them more opaque looking. But here's what we've got for now. Now I'm going to roll out the balloons just to try to flatten them out a little bit before we start putting some UV resin in them. And just rinse and repeat. I'm going to start adding different colors that I think are going to pop and go together in this project. Give those a good cure for a couple of minutes. My creative process was kind of developing throughout this project, and the more I did, the more ideas I got. So that's what's happening here. I made more balloons, I made some little flowers, I made some leaves, and I just kept thinking of all the things I could do with this colored UV resin and the wire and the ResinCrete. And that's my hope for these videos, is that I inspire you to get creative and craft something too. It doesn't have to be just like this, but just to inspire you and get your imagination going and your wheels a-turning. So now I'm going to take my nail buffing block and just sand down the back of my ResinCrete pieces. Now you can seal your ResinCrete with this ResinCrete sealer. It leaves a really nice satin finish and it makes it waterproof. You can also paint your ResinCrete pieces, but in my case, I'm going to leave them white and take my hand drill. Of course, if you have a little electric Dremel or something, that would be probably quicker, but also I want to be really careful not to crack my ResinCrete. So I'm just using my hand drill and I'm going to put some holes down in the chimney area of my ResinCrete. And now I bet you're starting to get the gist of this. I'm going to start placing hearts and balloons coming out of the chimney of my houses. And once I kind of have an idea of where I want them, I'm going to use some E6000 glue and dab it in there and start placing them. Now once the glue dries, then you can bend them and shape them to any way you want. But I'm just trying to get them in there and let them dry so that I can rearrange them and shape them better later. And once that glue's dry, I add some of that white UV resin to the top to give it some extra support. Cure that under the light. And now you can rearrange your hearts and balloons to whatever composition you like. And I've got this ResinCrete pendant that I had poured, and I decided just to make a little garden out of that. So I drilled some holes in it, did the same thing. I added some glue and started placing some of the little flowers and leaves and hearts that I made in there. And I think this is adorable. You're going to see the final result of all these at the end of the video, so hang in there. This is one of those projects that the more I did, the more ideas popped into my head. So I'm hoping that's what happens for you too. To cover the whole base, I decided to use some white UV resin mixed with a whole bunch of glitz glitter. And I put that over the base of my little flower garden. And there's the start of our garden. I almost thought about painting the doors and windows, but then I decided, heck, I'll just use the UV resin for them. So I used my same colored UV resin to fill in the doors and windows, different colors. I wanted to create a base for them. They could stand alone as is, but I was feeling like they need some greenery under them. I took these clouds that I had poured with Eco-Resin that I'm going to use for another project and borrowed them, or stole them, and used them to create a little grassy ground to put my houses on. And I just think it really brought the whole project together. You could go wild. You could add little flowers around the house. I would love to put these in a frame and make a little framed house scene. And here's a look at some of my final magical, fairy tale, whimsical houses with the balloons and hearts floating out of them. These would be perfect for a nursery or even party favors at a baby shower. To be honest, they just really make me happy. I love them. And I hope you do too. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and if I've inspired you to create something too. Have a great day. I sure appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time.